The hallway echoed with the faint hum of flickering fluorescent lights, the kind that never fully died but never shone bright enough either. Jacob Walker, mop in hand, pushed his cart slowly down the corridor of Easton High School. It was nearly 10 p.m., long past when the classrooms had emptied. For Jacob, being the school's janitor wasn't glamorous, but it was steady work. After his wife's sudden passing 3 years ago, every decision he made revolved around his 8-year-old daughter, Emily. She needed food, shelter, and, most of all, stability. He'd gladly trade exhaustion for that. He paused at the end of the hall, noticing a faint creak of a door. His brow furrowed. No one was supposed to be here. Teachers had left hours ago, and security typically made rounds by 9. Probably a loose hinge, he muttered, turning the mop. But then he heard it, sniffling. Quiet, choked sobs. The kind that came from someone trying hard not to be heard. He wheeled his cart closer, stopping outside the girls' locker room. The door wasn't locked. He knocked gently. Hello. Everything okay in there? A sharp voice cut through the silence. Don't follow me. The words carried more than irritation, they were heavy, almost desperate. Jacob froze, hand hovering over the doorframe. He knew teenagers well enough, especially the broken ones. Every night, he found traces of their struggles, crumpled notes shoved in lockers, graffiti scrawled in bathroom stalls, even half-finished letters tossed in trash bins. But there was something in her tone that sent a cold shiver crawling up his spine. Jacob cleared his throat softly. Look, I'll stay out here. Just making sure you're okay. Silence followed. Then the sound of a metal locker clanging shut. Jacob didn't push. He couldn't, not when boundaries mattered. But then, as the door swung open for a brief second, he caught sight of something that made his heart lurch. On the girl's wrist, as she clutched her backpack, was a glint of red, fresh, raw cuts that hadn't been there long. Jacob's chest tightened. He'd seen that before. Not here, not in this school, but years ago, when his younger sister had battled her own demons. His sister hadn't survived them. The girl kept her head low, hoodie shadowing her face, and stormed past him. Don't follow me, she snapped again, her voice trembling, almost cracking. Jacob stood frozen, torn between respecting her words and the knowledge that walking away might mean letting her slip into a darkness she couldn't escape. His mop bucket creaked as he let it go, following at a distance, not too close, not enough to spook her. The girl headed toward the back exit. It wasn't unusual for students to sneak out that way, but Jacob noticed the frantic way she moved, like someone running from herself. Please, just let me go, she whispered, almost as if she was talking to the air, not him. Jacob stopped several paces behind. His instinct screamed at him, his daughter's face flashing in his mind. If Emily were hurting, wouldn't he pray someone cared enough to step in? Then he saw it, the thing that saved her life. Dangling from the girl's backpack zipper was a hospital wristband, still wrapped tight around the fabric like she hadn't bothered to cut it off. It was dated today. Jacob's throat went dry. She had just been released. Released, and already back here, alone, with fresh wounds on her wrist. That was no coincidence. That was a cry for help. Hey, Jacob said gently, his voice steady, fatherly. I'm not here to get you in trouble. But I saw the wristband. She froze. Her shoulders stiffened, breath ragged. Slowly, she turned, eyes brimming with guarded rage and raw pain. She looked no older than 16. You don't know anything about me. Jacob nodded. You're right. I don't. But I know what that wristband means. And I know you're carrying something too heavy to carry alone. Her lips trembled, but she masked it with a glare. Why do you care? You're just the janitor. Jacob almost smiled at the sting. He'd heard worse. Maybe. But I'm also a dad. And I've seen what happens when someone feels invisible. Her eyes darted to the floor. The hardness in her voice wavered. If you're smart, you'll just walk away. I can't, Jacob said softly. Not when I've already seen. She let out a harsh laugh, though it sounded more like a sob caught in her throat. You think you can fix this? You can't. Nobody can. Jacob didn't move closer. Instead, he lowered himself onto a bench by the exit, keeping the space between them. Maybe not. But I can sit here. Sometimes that's enough. The silence stretched, heavy and raw. Finally, she sank against the wall, hugging her knees, trembling. My mom doesn't even notice, she whispered. She was relieved when the hospital sent me home. Like she didn't want to deal with me anymore. Jacob swallowed hard, pain slicing through him. That's not on you. That's on her. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I shouldn't even be here. Jacob thought of Emily asleep at home, her stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin. He thought of his sister, who never had someone to sit with her on nights like this. You're supposed to be here, he said firmly. You're here right now, breathing, fighting, even when it feels impossible. That means something. Her chest rose and fell sharply, like she was holding back a scream. Why do you even care? Jacob's voice cracked, just a little. Because I lost someone I loved to the same fight you're in. And I'll be damned if I watch it happen again when I have a chance to stand in the way. Her gaze flickered up, searching his face. Maybe for judgment, maybe for sincerity. Whatever she saw, it made her whisper, I don't know how to keep going. You don't have to know everything tonight, Jacob said gently. You just have to know the next step. And the next step is letting someone walk with you through this. Her sobs came freely now, shaking her small frame. Jacob stayed quiet, letting her release the storm. Minutes passed before she muttered, I don't even know your name. Jacob, he said, offering a small smile. But most kids just call me Mr. Walker. She wiped her sleeve across her face. I'm Lily. Lily, Jacob repeated, grounding the name. That's a strong name. Her lips twitched, almost like she wanted to smile but couldn't quite manage it. Jacob rose slowly, careful not to startle her. How about we call someone you trust? A counselor, maybe. Or if not, I can just sit here with you until you're ready. She hesitated, gripping her backpack strap so tightly her knuckles turned white. Finally, she whispered, I don't trust anyone. Then you can borrow my trust, Jacob said. Just for tonight. Something in his tone softened her defenses. She nodded faintly. Together, they walked back inside, Jacob deliberately keeping a step behind, giving her the lead. When they reached the counselor's office, dark, locked for the night, he used his keys. Janitors always had them. Inside, under the sterile glow of a desk lamp, Lily finally let go. Words spilled out about the bullying, the loneliness, the crushing silence at home. Jacob didn't interrupt. He just listened, every word carving deeper into his heart. When she finished, drained and hollow, he slid a sticky note across the desk. A number scrawled in his messy handwriting. That's the crisis line. They answer at any hour. And this, he added another note, that's my number. I can't promise to fix things. But I'll always pick up. Lily stared at the notes as if they were lifelines. By the time security made their rounds, Jacob had convinced her to let him call her aunt. The one adult she said wasn't cruel, just distant. It wasn't perfect, but it was a step. As she left with her aunt that night, Lily looked back, eyes swollen but alive. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Jacob nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. When he finally returned to his cart, mop still leaning where he'd left it, he sank onto the bench. Exhaustion weighed on him, but so did something else, a quiet relief. For the first time in years, Jacob didn't feel like just the janitor. Tonight, he had been the difference. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.